Hello everyone, this is Remleiz from 40k Theories, and welcome to this newest episode of Adeptus Podcastus. Joining me as always is Tactica Imperialis.
Hello everyone.
And joining us as our special guest this week, returning after a very long absence from this show, is fellow lore tuber, Oculus Imperia.
Very long absence indeed. Ahoy hoy. How's it going?
It's going.
Yeah, things are going, yes.
Yeah, it's going. That's about it. But no, can't complain. School's Warhammer Club is still going really well. So it's really been nice to introduce new people and just watch their passion for the hobby develop. Even if I had their partners coming to me in a lunch and saying, "What have you done to my partner? What have you done to them with this whole Warhammer thing?" That was quite amusing.
That's wonderful. Over the weekend, like something similar happened. I had my 4-year-old nephew over, and we got him this like little pottery set for him to paint. And I'm watching him doing this and being like, "Couple more years, that's going to be a Space Marine. I've totally got this kid on lock."
Yeah, sounds about right. So yeah, it's a lot. And you said notable absence. I mean, Leaky Cheese was about 70 episodes. What's Oculus's rap sheet?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you.
100. You were on 100.
I was. Oh man. Oh, 100. That was a good time.
Oh, that was mental. I can't like. It's episode 147. Like, after all the madness of 100, we're at 150 in 6 weeks.
150, come on. That's a huge milestone. Well done.
I know.
We last had Oculus on episode 111.
So it's been more recent than that.
Still, 36 episodes, 72 weeks. It's over a year.
That's quite some time. Anyway, delighted to be back.
Yes, and I think we can formally say you have definitely continued to expand and become one of the largest personalities in the hobby community. I think, is that fair to say? Especially with obviously what happened to TTS and people like myself and others who've stepped away and done other things. I feel like yourself, Voldemort, and obviously Remleiz, who's the old stalwart who's been doing this longer than half of us have been alive. I'm slightly You've been doing the hobby nearly as long as I've been alive. But I think it's fair to say that if you ask people to name hobby YouTubers, Oculus Imperia is in their top 3, if not certainly top 5, if not top 3.
Thank you. That's very flattering. It's certainly been still. It's all good. It's still that subscriber count thankfully keeps going up. It's been fun as always. The consistency is kind of the key. I like the pace that I have, and I like that people are able to respond to the pace, and it's nice.
And I still remember, it was a very long time ago, I don't think I'd even moved out of my parents' house, when we were early on in Podcastus, and I remember finding your channel by complete accident, and just being like, to Remleiz, let's keep an eye on this one. And see if we can get on the podcast. If you just done your salamanders video, as I recall, and I just done
that is way back.
I was doing my Legions series, so it was second year uni. Yeah, that'd be 5 years ago now. I remember seeing some of your content around the time I was doing my Legions videos and thinking, "Oh, this is actually really good." Note to Remleiz, keep an eye on this guy. And yeah, I think I remember tapping the two yourself for the podcast and going from there.
Yeah, that was. I will not lie. Getting that invitation to come on with you guys that time was just like, oh, I've made it. I've made it.
Yeah, and now we've made it because we get to collaborate with you. How the tables have turned.
Oh, come now.
But we picked a very fortuitous episode to get Oculus on. Obviously, it is Warhammer Fest weekend.
I thought you were going to say it's a very fortunate episode to get Oculus on because I'm not coughing myself to death this time.
That too. That helps. But yes, Remleiz is alive and healthy, and Warhammer...
I wouldn't say healthy. I just stick with a life.
Okay, not in the clutches of Grandfather Nurgle in an audible sense. But yes.
He's sitting across the table.
Yes.
He's eyeing me up at the bar, sending me free drinks, that kind of thing.
But yes, Warhammer Fest is in full swing, and Warhammer Fest has really changed, gone from a 2-day event to 5 days of reveals, alongside the Horus Heresy event that I believe is this Saturday alongside the reveal of the new edition and all of that. Now, we are recording this on the 6th of May. So we are recording this on the Friday night. So the Heresy stream has not happened. At the time of recording, the Heresy stream has not happened. The 40k stream has happened, the AOS stream has happened, and the Specialist game stream has happened, but we do not know what happened in the Heresy stream. We tried to get Saturday, but it just wasn't convenient, and so we can't talk about the Heresy stream, which you will have all seen by this time, I am sure. So we've got 40k, AOS, and the Specialist games on our agenda this evening.
Yes. Though there was one Horus Heresy reveal that we can talk about, that Dreadwing Marduk bloke.
Oh, yes, there are two, actually. We've got the Plastic Contemptor as well.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, this week's Heresy Thursday was Marduk Cedras. Apparently, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, this was a bit of a surprise one to actually just get dropped. Was very happy just to see this guy kind of finally crop up.
So, for those not educated, like me, who is Marduk Cedras? Is he a new invention, or is he in the novels already?
Well, Marduk Cedras is not a novel character. He is one of the Dark Angels characters that has kind of popped up because of... He's one of those breed of heresy characters that essentially exist only in the Forge World Black books, and, you know, maybe we'll see him at some point in Black Library in a big way, but he's not, you know, your Hallgwins or your Farith Redlosses. He's Forge World kind of creation through and through.
So we've had rules but never a story.
No rules but never a story beyond the lore that's included about him in the books, which is metal as hell in a very Warhammer way. He's from the Unification Wars. He's Terran. He's probably about 2.5 centuries old by the time the Horus Heresy breaks out, and has just been murdering his way across the galaxy since then. He was part of the host of Stone, I think, before the Lion joined the Legion and reformed it, and is now quite high up there with the Dreadwing. He just destroys everything that's put in front of him. It's pretty cool.
Yes, it says here, he's one of the Dreadwing and is an eschaton, which means that he is one who has presided over the death of an entire world. He annihilated an 8th Legion force in the Thramas Crusade at the cost of the entire population of the capital world of the system. So he's armed with the regalia of the Shattered Scepter, his armor, and a power sword called the Death of Worlds. Yeah, this guy is about as edgy as a loyalist gets.
The Death of Worlds is actually even edgier and more metal than that, because he's not an eschaton who has only killed one world. He's an eschaton who's killed a few dozen. His sword has a bit of metal taken from every world that he has destroyed, welded onto it.
Oh, is that what that is? I was wondering, like, why does it look like it's got a half scabbard that it's still in?
No, that's a bunch of bands from worlds that he himself has presided over the death of.
God, and I thought the Night Lords were edgy.
This is edgy in the Dark Angels kind of way, which has always been like, I don't know. They've never come across as edgy to me, so more it's just incredibly dangerous. It's like everything that they don't boast about anything, and anything they say they can do, they can actually 100% accomplish.
Yes, indeed. So
I mean, it's cool and like he's presided over Deaths of Worlds, but it's not going to be as cool as who is it? Is it Ultek Moore, who just launched a moon at a planet?
There will be few things more cool in the Heresy than what Ultek Moore did.
Yeah, because we got that what's that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure gif from it, didn't we?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, what's the gun on this model? Because it looks kind of Volkite, but also plasma-y, and can't put my finger on what type of gun it is.
It's a plasma incinerator, isn't it?
Yep, I believe he is right.
Yeah, it does look plasma-y, but it's also got that sort of shape of the barrel that looks Volkite-y, so I wasn't sure.
It's basically a plasma flamethrower.
Right, great.
Because the First Legion get all the good toys.
Yeah, even more edge.
Like their pet Men of Iron. No, I'm not going over how stupid that is. I'm sorry.
I don't care that it's stupid. That thing is so cool. You just got some insane Men of Iron chained up in the bellies of your ships. That's just the best thing.
Just go following around holding the off button and say, do what we say, or press the off button.
Though, if you truly want to gaze upon something that is truly edgy, to start our segue into Warhammer Fest, I think before the shows, there was a reveal of the cover art for Codex Chaos Space Marines, and oh my god, the edge. It is incredibly spiky, grimdark, and everything associated with it. And it kind of divided opinion, because I saw a fair few people in my Discord saying they didn't like the sort of the style of it, and the framing. But as much as it's really edgy and kind of blanchy in its art style, I really like it.
So I said first off, the artist I think is Lewis Jones. So huge props to the artist for doing incredible work with this. I really wish Games Workshop would credit their artists more, but that's a whole nother thing. I said this on Twitter earlier on this week. Like, Lewis Jones and Phil Moss have been doing barnstormingly good work with their 9th edition art. They've really been pushing 40k into a Blanchian, as you say, place that it kind of missed for a bit of 7th and 8th, where art kind of got a bit more cleaner, almost. What I love about this is the framing, and how it is the Chaos Space Marine placed in a position of kind of like ascendancy over insane mortal cultists around them. It really ties into the lore in a very big way.
Yeah, I agree in that, the Chaos cultists are never going to become a Space Marine, but when you think of like many Chaos cults, you get this idea of a single Chaos Space Marine, typically a Dark Apostle or a Sorcerer, leading an entire host of cultists and demagogues and insane mutant psychopaths. And this really does invoke that idea of this, as you say, Chaos Space Marine in a position of dominance, but also without like demeaning the cultists either, because they look incredibly dangerous and mental in and of themselves. They don't look weak and servile. They still look a threat, but the Chaos Space Marine is the arch threat in this picture.
It's like how we get Chaos Space Marines, or indeed Imperial Space Marines, as represented in, books by Dan Abnett, where, a few of them show up and they're insanely dangerous. Which obviously, won't work for the war game because, you need whole squads and everything like that. But it's very evocative all the same.
I remember actually reading First and Only, and something like that happened. A single Iron Warrior shows up and Gaunt Ghosts just have to run because I think they only kill it by shoving a crack grenade down its throat. Or something like, I forget the exact way they kill it. I feel like it involved a grenade.
Probably did.
But it's a really good piece of art, and it really contrasts well to the Space Marines. It's not like, these are Space Marines, but spiky. No, these are a very different faction. And I think certainly for a while, there was a problem with the Chaos Marines where they were just a different flavor of Marines. Yeah, they had demons that you could summon, and they had different vehicles, and they had cultists, so you could play guard alongside your Marines, but they weren't really guard. We'll get to that later. But now they look different, and with what we've seen at Warhammer Fest, I think they're going to feel very different to play, which I'm really happy about.
The last thing that I'll note about the art in this case, and indeed with everything that Lewis Jones and Phil Moss have turned out, is the fact that there's been this thing where artists seem to only be able to make drawings of a miniature that is able to be bought. We had a period where official art moved away from kind of like interpretations, or even like, something you could potentially convert to no, you have to do a specific representation of this specific miniature. And more and more these days, and wonderfully so, I'm seeing art that is like, that's not a miniature in question. That is just an art piece that is evocative of the universe, which is just wonderful. It's so good.
Yeah, I get what you mean, because that Chaos Space Marine in question, you might be able to make that, but you wouldn't be building it out of the box.
No, you can't just go and buy a clamshell with that specific one in it. And I like that. give me some different visions. Give me creativity. This is what this hobby thrives on.
Yeah, and speaking of creative, I think those who enjoy bonkers mutated conversions and high Kirioth are going to be very happy with what we got for the Chaos Space Marines in their reveal this time. Now, bear in mind, we've seen new Chaos Space Marines only a couple of years ago. We got the new Chosen inside the Eldritch Omens box set. So a lot of the core, and Havocs were not that long ago either. So a lot of the core range has already been updated. So what they've done for Warhammer Fest this year is updated one of the most egregious kits, the Possessed, who now are on the level of Gravis Marines. I think that's how they sort of sell them, as well as reboxing and remaking the Cultist kit and adding 2 new flavors of mutated Cultists called the Accursed and the Torments. And, if that wasn't enough, a Cultist HQ unit, so you can run an entire army of Cultists if you so desire.
Which is pretty cool.
It is. And the models themselves, I mean, I really like the Cultist kit. I think GW has had a real good chance, thanks to things like Warcry, to nail down what a human devoted to chaos looks like. Because these cultists, if you took away their guns and gave them, like, another axe or something, they would look right at home in Warcry. And that's a good thing, because those models for Warcry were very, very good.
Now, is it just me, or does one of them look very much like the Witch King of Angmar?
Oh, the Nazgul vibes on those attendants are huge, absolutely. And I don't know actually.
The Swordbearer from the Dark Commune? Is that the one you're on about?
Yes. There's a couple of them. They would not look completely out of place in Middle Earth, but it's a good design. It's all good designs. The guy from the Dark Commune with the severed psyker head that's kind of held aloft in front of him.
Yep, the Mind Witch they're called.
My favorite. I'm delighted with this line expansion. Like it's for one thing, the update of the Possessed was just so desperately needed. And the new mutants are just wonderful. Like they're just incredibly impressive sculpts. Chaos Undivided flavors, more just neutral body horror as opposed to something that's more god specific. It's all good. And not only that, but the fodder that they provide for hobbyists across Age of Sigmar and fantasy and, you know, all the specialist games. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm not a huge fan of the accursed cultists, sort of the mutated but not all the way cultists, because some of them, they're mid-mutation and they do, to me, they look fine and they look nice, but I wouldn't have been surprised if someone made it using green stuff and called it a day. For some of them, at least.
Are you serious? Oh, man.
I know, not all of them, but like take the guy who's got like the 2 red claws for arms. Like you could take like a cultist or like a Hellstrider or a Slanesh for the head, and just take 2 claws from Possessed, jab them in, and call it. To me, they're nice and I like them, but they're not models. If I was playing Chaos Space Marines, that I would go out and buy because they're not my vibe, and some of them don't look, I know they're not supposed to look natural, but they've gone past the body horror natural and just look weird to me.
I mean, it's obviously all subjective. I frankly find that their body horror aesthetic is absolutely nailed it in a wonderfully Cronenberg-y kind of vibe. I think that the challenge with producing kits for mutations is they use, I don't know if anyone remembers, you probably do, the old Chaos Mutation sprue that came out with like this first 6th edition fantasy Chaos Warrior kit. Before my time, I'm afraid. Yeah, it was kind of cross. It was designed to be cross system. A bunch of people would just use it for Chaos Space Marines back in like 3rd and 3.5 edition to convert Possessed. The issue when you're just slapping a bunch of, tentacles and arms that are spare bits on a model is that it can maybe look a bit janky, especially if you're not into the sculpting thing. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have, 3 versions of a guy going through exactly the same mutation.
Yeah.
In the model. So yeah, it's a difficult balance to strike, I think, as, for Games Workshop, the company that's producing these.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I think that they nailed all of these personally. I love them.
Yeah,
but
I will say I really like the Torment. I think they look great. Like, because they're fully like the demon has fully come through and the human's just sort of a shell left behind. I really like them because it's gone so far that it's a demon mutant that happened to be human. And I think that those models I absolutely adore. The Accursed just, they sit in the middle for me and it just doesn't click. Not that they're bad designs or that they're bad models. It just, for me, that style doesn't click in the same way like it does with the Possessed. And I know I'm being a bit hypocritical because I like the Possessed and they're the same thing. But I think the armor kind of helps because they still have a sort of the beginnings of a shape being Space Marine-y, and then you can work outwards from there. I think that's my take. It's a bad take. I'm aware it's a weird take, but it's a take. Yes, go ahead, comments, roast me.
But speaking of Chaos Space Marines, one of the, it was either a surprise or not a surprise, depending on where you're sitting, I suppose. But we're also getting a Chaos Space Marine Codex supplement in regards to, like, well, the World Eaters are getting a Codex.
We're not even done with the main Codex yet.
That was a tease in the purest sense of the word. It's like, hi, the World Eaters are getting a Codex. No, we have literally nothing to show you except chain axes.
But it's good.
And some artwork.
It's at least good to confirm that they are going to redo Khorne Berserkers because, oh god, they need it.
They are so old. When is that kit from? Is it 2003 or is it 1993?
1998.
1998. Oh lord.
It was very early on in the lifespan of 3rd edition.
Yeah, the first Chaos Space Marine Codex from that edition, not the one that broke that edition.
I mean, it was very revolutionary at the time, considering, like, hey, we have, like, separate knee joints so you can have some action poses, and that was a huge deal back then.
I know, right?
People today, if you didn't grow up around that time, you wouldn't understand just how revolutionary the Khorne Berserker kit was at the time.
Yeah, this is very much just two old men yelling at clouds, but yes, that kit was truly revolutionary in terms of posability. You mean my guy can hold his axe this way or this way?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, considering that the previous Khorne Berserker model you could get at the time was literally just a single static, boring monopose model, like chainsword out to the side, bolt pistol forward, and that's it. Your posability is limited to his left arm. Now, I think the main question that everyone's asking, that since we're getting a World Eaters Codex, does this mean we'll get an Angron model down the line?
We'd better. I think it would be really weird and conspicuous if they've done the Thousand Sons of Death Guard and given them Primarchs and not give the World Eaters their Primarch. I think that would just be weird.
I agree. I don't think that... I mean, it's just one of those things because everyone loves speculating about when the next Primarch model will drop, and I don't know how much enthusiasm there is for expanding Primarch models at Games Workshop, but it would be weird not to get Angron, of course. Like for a World Eaters Codex, of course. If Magnus has his and the Death Guard... If Magnus is existing for the Thousand Sons Codex and Mortarion exists for the Death Guard Codex, it would be very, very weird if a World Eaters Codex drops without Angron.
I mean, they could always just add rules for Angron and say, to use Angron in gameplay, just use a standard Bloodthirster model, because that's basically what Angron is.
Oh, we're well past the days where you get official rules that state that you just proxy something. Come on, a rule has to become with an attached miniature.
Indeed.
Mind you, do you remember there was actually rules for Angron in,
5th?
Yeah, 5th edition, there was actually rules for Angron.
Yeah, there were Apocalypse rules when they redid Armageddon. They've had custom Stomper rules at the same time. Yeah, he had you could take a bodyguard unit for him of 8 Bloodthirsters.
Because that wouldn't be broken.
Love to see it. Oh, it was Apocalypse. Everything was broken.
Accurate. So that's going to be fun to see. It's worth pointing out that we actually didn't finish the Chaos Space Marine Codex because they had one more miniature to show us. The update for the Demon Prince. Now, we got, before Warhammer Fest, I think it got leaked and so they properly revealed it, the Slaves to Darkness Demon Prince for Age of Sigmar. And they have since confirmed that it will be also turnable into a 40k variation, which is the one that they revealed at Warhammer Fest. So the Demon Prince kit is being updated. It's got a sort of generic variant for Slaves to Darkness and a generic variant for 40k, as well as God-aligned heads for each of the Gods plus Chaos Undivided. So, yeah, exciting times for Demon Princes, and I much prefer the Chaos Space Marine version to the Slaves to Darkness version, though I don't know how much of that is down to paint job and the head.
Frankly, like this is a kit that I think anyone who wanted to make a Demon Prince that's updated is waiting for. Like Demon Princes are one of those kits and one of those concepts that like everyone will often pour their heart and soul into making a version of. So to have one that's official with this many options that's also cross system is just great.
Yeah.
I think it also helps as well that the 40k version is basically just effectively it's an updated version of the 3rd edition Demon Prince model in a sense.
Yeah, there are some very classic throwbacks to the original, well, maybe not the original, but the 3rd edition that saw us through till the plastic kit, Demon Prince. There's a lot of...
The Dawn of War Demon Prince, basically.
Yes, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Also, it's got a blooming flamethrower built into its arm. That's really cool.
Oh, the Kai gun. Yes, that is another Chaos Space Marines 3.5 edition Codex throwback, because that thing used to wreck shop.
So if a lot of the new Chaos Space Marine Codex actually have Chaos Space Marine be able to wreck shit up as well.
Hopefully so. The other model reveal from Warhammer Fest for Warhammer 40,000 at least was the return and reboot of Squat Trikes, the Hernkin Pioneer for the Leagues of Votan, including a first look at a female kin, which is good that they've managed to keep that mixed in, and it's a trike, it's a hover trike.
In a way, it reminds me a lot of the Vulture from StarCraft.
It's got wicked big Fallout vibes, which is something that I just love about it.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't look out of place on, like...
I see what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, and on Necromunda in the Ash Waste expansion, we'll get to Necromunda, it wouldn't look out of place in the Ash Waste with the whole hover trike and then Wasteland Scabber type vibe I get off of it, and the big long greatcoat and all of that.
I like the fact that like it is recognizably Warhammer in a lot of its design aspects, but you also get the kind of throwbacky weirdness that you find with the Castellan kits from the Mechanicus. Like those smooth, those round surfaces, which is not something that the Imperium tends to go for.
Those curves.
But yes, we also got a squat data sheet earlier in the time for the weekend where we got a look at...
So I just noticed the Rider's gun. It's basically a shotgun, but it's like got like a 6-shooter like loadout thing. So it's just like a 6-shooter shotgun.
Yep, it's like a revolver bolter.
It's definitely unique. So in terms of rules, we'll be quick. The squats, the kin, are sort of a hybrid blend of Astartes and Militarum, as you might kind of expect. So they have a weapon skill ballistic skill 3+, like a Space Marine, strength and toughness 4, like a Space Marine, only the 1 wound, 2 attacks, leadership 7, and a 4 armor save, more in line with Astra Militarum and a 5-inch move. So there is a bit of a mix of the two in there, and their unit champion actually comes with an additional wound, which is something that normally you only see in things like orcs. So it's an interesting blend. I look forward to seeing where the squat rules go as time passes. But I think we'll have to wait and see. In terms of 40k, there was a chapter approved, but And Angels of Death Origins for Warhammer Plus. So the Angels of Death people have been asked to do a prequel by the sound of it.
Let's hope they don't use the same shitty filter over it as they did with the other episodes.
Has the same iconic black and white animation style as the first season of Angels of Death.
The facial animations have been really... The game has been up there, judging by the trailer, which is good. The only thing that I would like to see is the camera be a bit more stationary as opposed to kind of just careering wildly around certain scenes. But that's a personal preference.
They also confirm Season 2 of Angels of Death is going to be a thing. So they're going to be keeping that train rolling for as long as they can get away with it. Right, moving forwards in time, Should we do Sigmar, or shall we keep Win the 41st Millennium for a bit longer?
I'm sure both of you would like to talk about Age of Sigmar.
Wouldn't say no.
Definitely wouldn't say no. So, Skaven are back, and they have.
You want to make that singular. A Skaven is back.
There is also some Clan Ashen Assassins coming to Underworlds, which will then, of course, mean that a range of updated assassins, I hope, comes, and Night Runners get updated. They are getting a new battle tome, yes, with the same cover art as last edition, which is a bit of a shame. But it's a new Skaven Deathmaster, which is a nice looking model. I'm not a huge Skaven fan in general, if I'm completely honest, but it's a very nice miniature nonetheless.
He's only got the one sword, and he calls himself Deathmaster. Deathmaster Snitch wielded 3 at once.
He also has a Triskelay and a Knife Tail.
So technically, it's 2 swords. I think it's a great model. I know that there have been a lot of very disappointed Skaven players in the past 24 hours. It is one of those things where I commiserate as an ogre player when a lot of your models are old or in fine cast, and you got some good plastic kits, it's true, but you really want to see some updates. So I commiserate in that. But I will say that the Sylvaneth, who we're probably going to get to, needed an update more than you guys. So
Jezzails would beg to differ.
The Jezzails, sure. But I think proportion-wise, and certainly in terms of how they fare in the actual game, Sylvaneth were very desperately in need of an update.
This is true. And there's a plot reason for all the new Sylvaneth, thanks to Alarielle's Right of Life in Broken Realms. So, a character that those of you who actually followed along with AOS 1's lore might recognise has returned, the Lady of Vines, which is going to be a new named character for the Sylvaneth, and it's sufficiently dark and creepy, with lots of, vines and vine-based limb attacks and all that stuff.
And a tactical plague bearer.
Indeed. Makes a nice change, that's for sure. And they are accompanied by Gossamid archers, so archers but with insect jump packs. Essentially, they've got symbiotic relationship with these winged insects, Zephyr sprites. So, yes, flying archers.
So
Fun.
basically Vespid.
A bit like Vespid. Yeah, I suppose if you're looking for a 40k comparison point, you're looking at Vespid. Probably, yes.
Basically, if Vespid have children with space elves, you get these guys.
Not a bad way of putting it, to be fair. And they do look really nice. And as much as I don't play Sylvaneth, I have enough Elven projects on the go. I think if I was going to complete the suite and do all the stuff that has a link to old elves, I do quite like what they're doing with the Sylvaneth, but one of my friends already plays them.
I just want to point out, I just want to point out something that's absolutely adorable. They're using giant beetles as arrow quivers, and the beetles are holding little arrows, thorn arrows in their carapaces. That's adorable.
It's wonderful. It is wonderful. I recently, I'm playing it in a little AOS league here, and I had one of my matches against a Sylvaneth player. And I gotta say, I'm playing Ogre Moor Tribes. It's a solid B tier army at best, and the game was almost not fun in terms of how badly I beat him. It was just turn 3. He didn't have anything left on the board except for one unit that had, teleported behind my army. It was just, I just destroyed him. And it was one of those ones where I'm just like, as we ran through the units, I'm looking at them and being like, that is completely overcosted for what it does, or why does that unit only have 1 wound, or why does it not do any rend, or just these things. Like, the army needs more variety, and it needs a new battle tome. Like, it needs a complete rework from the ground up. So I'm really happy for Sylvaneth players, because I think it's a wonderful range. I think they're a great part of AOS, but Agreed. They really need their day in the sun.
And hopefully this is it. And they weren't even done. Because if you wanted more go-fast units, might I point you in the direction of Spite Rider Lancers, so Dragonfly Cavalry, if you like, as well as Revenant Seekers, who essentially are a resurrection machine. We haven't got full context as to how they're going to work yet, my understanding from reading the article is that they will, if a Sylvaneth dies nearby, they will be able to use it to restore another Sylvaneth model to life. I doubt they're going to be just like passive reanimation protocols for Sylvaneth. That would be weird. But I think that's probably what they'll go for, is that they might keep track of life energy, or when a nearby Sylvaneth dies, then another Sylvaneth unit can be healed or gain models back or something like that.
I'm sincerely hoping so, because one of the things they do have a lot of issues with is kind of durability. So certainly hoping that they get something like that.
That would be good, yeah. And a bit more punch and a bit of speed would definitely not hurt, because
quite
the challenge that Sylvaneth had is because they used to be twinned with Wood Elves. The Wood Elves had all the cavalry. They had the Sisters of the Thorn, who were the stag archers. They had the actual main archers. They had all the cardline infantry, and Sylvaneth just had dryads and tree lords, and they've had to expand it outwards from there. So I think now, especially comparing them to something like Ideneth, who have solid core infantry, fast moving cavalry, decently paced archers, and some really powerful heroes, and a resurrection mechanic. I think it's interesting that maybe Sylvaneth are sort of taking some inspiration from the Ideneth in terms of how they designed the range. Obviously not the model and the rules specifically, but making sure they have those core elements of hardline infantry, missile unit, heavy cavalry, less heavy cavalry, big magic power, big splashy monster. Just a nice mix of an army. They feel a bit more complete for having these different unit options.
Just round out the range.
Absolutely. Though, speaking of rather large and unrounded ranges, Cities of Sigmar, this is going to be fun. So they have confirmed they are redoing Cities of Sigmar, which is good. And I think they seem to be taking a bit of a closer look at the humans among the Cities of Sigmar, the free cities. And they haven't got any models to show us, just a few pre-renders of a few bits and bobs. But it's going to be very interesting to see how they tackle this project. They make no bones that it's a huge project for them. But with the Cities of Sigmar, for those who don't know, they are a mix of all the old world factions that would have been considered like the good guys. So humans, elves, dwarves, and such. Admittedly, there's dark elves, high elves, wood elves, and dwarves alongside the Empire in there, and they're all kind of blended and remixed and things like that to represent the miscellaneous inhabitants of the cities. But the entire range is Warhammer Fantasy miniatures, and so whilst they look cool, they've never really been Sigmarized, if you like. And so now they're rebooting the project. It's interesting to see what direction they take. Are they going to make it sort of AOS's answer to the Empire, which is human factions that fit the realm and all that? But then what do you do with all the elves and dwarves, or Duardin, I should say? Are they going to keep the elves and Duardin in there, but are they going to have to Sigmarize them too? There's about 3 different armies you could pull out of that book and make into new armies. The free cities, the thing that the Darkling Covens and their assets that now work for Morathi Kane, and the Duardin, the Dispossessed, and the College of Engineering and the College of Mages, all of these things. It's difficult to understand or envisage what they're going to do with them.
Well, it's being described as a very ground-up army project, which is precisely the opposite of how the Cities of Sigmar are, which is every leftover unit from the old world that is still kind of ostensibly in production and can be fit into everything. Cities of Sigmar has always been a great concept for me as just a way of being like, yes, this is a way to use some of the best of the old world ranges in a weird and funky soup of an army. Not least for the fact that like the sheer amount of creativity you can inject into one of those forces is just nuts for AOS.
Oh, did you see the Tale of Four Gamers project that was done in White Dwarf with the Cities of Sigmar?
Yeah, loved it. Like spectacular. That's perfect. That's exactly what you should have from that book. Which is why I'm hoping that Dawnbringer Crusades isn't going to do away or replace Cities of Sigmar. I worry that it will, but I do want cities to just still be there, even if like, I don't expect their range to be expanded at all since they don't have a range. They just have leftover kits. I I want that book to still be there. I want that book to still be supported, even if it just gets an update for 3.0. And I want Dawnbringer Crusades to be their own thing, because on the stream they did say that the Crusades are going to be their own faction. It's not just the Empire redone for AOS. It's going to have their own aesthetic, which will be Gothic and, probably a little bit Empire influenced, but it's not just going to be, hi, here's a new Greatswords kit.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing as well.
Especially because we're also probably going to be getting new Empire kits for the old world too. Like those kits are probably going to be what that range will revolve around, at least initially.
Yeah, I'd be interested. That was sort of one in the back of my head is, if you're going to update all of these kits and create new Dawnbringer Crusades, whether you retire Cities of Sigmar or not, my initial reaction to seeing this is like, okay, so we're getting a human-focused book. That's great. The Dawnbringer Crusades. It's a new spin on the Empire and the way that the new humans fight and all of that. And that's great. But you've got to put the elves somewhere. And Daughters of Cain have just had a reboot, so you're not putting them there. So you're going to make a separate sort of elven and dwarven book for the disparate factions? Are you going to actually do Dwarven Kingdoms, where you put Fireslayers, Caradron, and Dispossessed together? They haven't done that like they did for the Oryx. They haven't done that for the Dwarden because they've just redone Fireslayers. But they could have. And then, if you do that and you retire a lot of the old legacy miniatures, how many of those legacy miniatures make it back into the old world? How many of them get redone? How many of them are usable in old world? And so on and so forth.
I mean, one of the stated things about the old world that we've heard from the beginning is that your old kits are going to be valid. Your old armies are going to be valid. They just need to be on square bases. So I imagine the Greatswords kit is probably still going to be there. I imagine anything that can Demigryph Knights, every Dispossessed kit that's still available, those are going to be playable and have rules for the old world.
So I love Demigryph Knights.
They're pretty great. Great. Yeah, excited for the Dawnbringer Crusades all the same. That's definitely an army that I want to see realized.
For sure.
And plus anything that's got like Gothic, super Gothic regular humans in a Warhammer setting, I just love that.
It's always good. We actually still aren't done with Sigmar because we got confirmation earlier in the week that Slaves to Darkness were getting a battle tome in winter. They've got 4 more battle tomes to reveal, but they've told us we're getting Slaves to Darkness in winter. So that was something. And there were then a ginormous pile of leaks, like ridiculous. I'm not going to share them here. It's not my place, but a ginormous pile of leaks. And one of the things that leaks had, and that they've actually now revealed at Warhammer Fest, is the Ogroid Theridons, formerly members of Destruction, who were basically wiped out by the Oryx and now fight for Chaos. And are...
My question regarding these is that what is their relationship with Minotaurs? Are these the replacement Minotaurs? Or
they're not replacing... Well, Minotaurs are known as Bulgors in AOS.
And they live in the Beasts of Chaos book. This is for Slaves to Darkness, so it's a different faction.
Which Beasts of Chaos players are just...
crying.
All of the teases that, like, I was so convinced we were going to get a new Jabberslythe, we're totally not. Like, the only thing that we might get now is that the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, which is still a question mark right now. But yeah, poor Beasts of Chaos players. To answer Rem's question, Ogroids have no relation to Minotaurs. They are a new AOS thing in and of themselves.
Right. You can understand my confusion now. You see, like, giant, ogre-sized creature with bull horns, cloven hooves, looks very much like a Minotaur.
They don't have the cow face, though. That's how you tell. They don't say moo.
Well, how do you know? You've spoken to one?
Yeah, nice models, though, we'll say.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice models. And obviously
absolutely gorgeous.
And there's also the Ogroid Myrmidon and Thaumaturge that have been around for a while, so there may come a point where, kind of like Cities of Sigmar has done, I was wondering if Slaves to Darkness would fracture at some point, in terms of I was thinking at one point, because of all the Warcry cultists, they were going to do Chaos Warriors, like Warriors of Chaos, like they used to do, but then have Marauders and like redo Marauders, have the Warcry cults, and have that be like a Dark Oath book. I wanted a Dark Oath battle tome separate from Slaves at one point, and I thought they were going to go in that direction, but they seem to have embraced the menagerie of chaos a little bit more with adding Ogroids and all of this stuff into the book.
I don't think there's necessarily any real like reason to have every flavor of every army has to, spin off to their own battle tome. Like the Dark Oath are a thing in and of themselves. They've got that wonderfully Conan the Barbarian vibe to them. I don't feel that there's much of a reason to, give them their own range. I think they work fine within Slaves of Darkness. Just maybe have a sub-faction that gives them a ton of buffs. Like allegiance abilities, sub-factions, those are the best ways to inject as much flavor into AOS from like the general battle tomes, I've found.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good suggestion. I think my opinion has evolved over time, and at the time that I wanted a Dark Oath book, I think I'm all right with it now, much more. But last thing for Sigmar, we've got a couple of new novels revealed for Drecky Flint, who's been in a few short stories before, who now gets a model, one of the Caradron overlords, as well as the Hollow King, which is, what's his name? Kado Ezechia? I don't know how to pronounce that.
Kado Ezechia, I'd say.
Okay, fair enough. A vampire character who is the Hollow King.
It looks like he's eating his own hair.
From the front, yes. From the side, not so much. But absolutely fair cop.
I think that the Drecky Flint model and the vampire model are both just perfect. I know that I don't have a lot of criticisms for most of these reveals, but they have genuinely been good. Drecky Flint is perfect Caradron Overlord Admiral conversion fodder. The vampire sculpt is just phenomenal.
Drecky Flint is a great model. I'm not too keen on the vampire, though, personally.
I mean, whatever about the hair or the head, take that or leave it. The general pose, the sculpt, the cape, the armor, the swords, it's understated. Like, it's a common complaint I see about Games Workshop sculpts these days is the sheer level of detail that goes into them. I don't think it's a bad thing, provided that the detail is done well. This is how you do detail well. Like, it's not a ton of bells and whistles. It's not even a ton of trim on stuff. It's pose and position and just the little headstone underneath the tree, just how he's got a hand on his big scabbard. It's just wonderful. Like, you could make this into a badass witch hunter, like at the almost a drop of a hat if you wanted to.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much. I think you might just swap the right hand and the head and you'd be 90% of the way there.
Mm-hmm.
And give him a crossbow.
Obviously. Or a, flintlock pistol.
Absolutely.
You got to play to the classics.
I do really like the Drecky Flint model, though. That looks really good.
It does.
He just comes across as like a full-on, don't take no shit kind of badass type of guy.
Agreed. Which is very much what the Caradron are like.
He seems like a kind of guy that Gotrek would like, I reckon.
If we get time, I've read 3 Gotrek books in 2 weeks. So, let that tell you I've done a bit of a Gotrek binge. So,
impressively Dwarden dedicated.
I play elves. So,
nobody's perfect.
So, right, moving onwards to Specialist Games Day, which is what was today for us. We got something for Warcry, Middle-earth, Necromunda, and Kill Team. Permission to skip Middle-earth?
Well, it's just
permission
bear,
granted.
It's a bear, yeah. I want to start with Kill Team, personally, because we got the next Kill Team box, Maverick, or something like that, following up from Kill Team Necromunda, and it pits Vanguard Primarchs, who get an upgrade sprue, kind of like the Tau Pathfinders got, and pits them against, for the first time in I don't know how long, actual, honest to whatever they believe in, traitor guardsmen.
Weren't these the guardsmen from Blackstone Fortress?
Not all of them.
Only the Commissar and the Ogren are reused sculpts, and they have also been out of production for quite some time at this point.
Yeah, I recognise the Commissar. I don't recognise the Ogren, to be honest.
No, he was from the same Blackstone Fortress expansion.
Fair enough.
I think he had like one hand option, so that might be it. But the Guardsmen are all new multi-part sculpts.
Yeah, and they are really bloody nice. In my personal opinion.
It's nice we're getting some Lost in the Damned options that aren't just cultists.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think these fit in really nicely alongside cultists because, especially if you're going down a route with a Chaos Army of a single Space Marine and their hordes of devotees, you might have, say, your Dark Apostle and their retinue, maybe a cabal of sorcerers or a squad of Chosen who guard the Apostle and are sort of their enforcers. But then, if it was a true Chaos cult, there would be elements of it that are fully militarized. And so you would expect to see, rather than just ragtag weapons and things like that where they're fully off the deep end, you would see organized military forces like renegade guardsmen who've been converted. And this fits that. And they also come with weapons you wouldn't expect to see in the guard either. Like, obviously you've got bolt pistol, las pistols, chain swords, las locks, and the like, and sniper rifles and things. But you also get a shotgun and riot shield, which is, I've never seen a guardsman with a riot shield before.
Yeah. I have to say that guy looks like he's straight out of Fallout New Vegas.
He does.
100%. That helmet is perfect.
It is riot gear helmet, yeah. But is that the first guardsman with a riot shield?
I mean,
unless you want to count Bullgrins.
It's probably,
which I don't.
It's got a bit of a vibe of a looted, like, Palatine Enforcer thing, so he might have picked it up off an Arbites that he managed to bash over the head with that shotgun, or do something possibly far worse too. No, like, I like this kit. It's good. Can't say overall the idea of, you know, them fighting Phobos Space Marines is super exciting to me, but I'm happy for Lost in the Damned Traitor Guard players for having a full plastic kit for once.
Yeah.
And it again adds to that if you can actually, because these will be in the Chaos Space Marine Codex, surely. So unless they're doing the Lost and the Damned, which they would do with the cultists rather than put them in Chaos Space Marines, so they're not doing that. These guys will be in Codex Chaos Space Marines. You can properly build a proper Chaos cult now, right? With or without Space Marines. And I've got too many projects, but I would love to do this project. Like Traitor Guard, Traitor Guard with cultists and all that built around a Dark Apostle. I would love to do that project, but I just know I'm too poor and busy.
I'll be honest, you know how with the Eldari Codex they put Craftworld, Inari, Harlequins, and all, and of course, there's all together in one codex. I'll be honest, I'm surprised they haven't done anything like that for Chaos, where put Chaos Space Marines and Demons and Cultists / Lost and Down in one codex and just do it Codex Chaos, like what I did with 2nd edition.
I think they could get away with it with the Harlequins because the Harlequin roster is about 4 units and 3 heroes.
It was about the same size as the Custodes Codex last edition, though, let's be honest.
This is true, but they've rolled the Sister of Silence in with them.
Which leads them to the next part. Why didn't they just call it Codex Talons of the Emperor as the Codex Custodes, consider Sister of Silence are not Custodes?
Agreed. I think...
Pout.
Yeah, I think the reason they haven't done what you suggest is because the Demons range is too big for them to roll it in. Like, it would be... like bigger than bigger than Codex Space Marines chunky, which is about all the demon units, because you've got 4 gods, each with a greater demon, a lesser demon, at least 1 middle tier demon, if not 2, like Juggernaut, like Blood Crushers and Fleshhounds, plus the unaligned stuff like Soul Grinders, plus artillery pieces, plus other wizards, plus heralds, plus random Chaos Mutant beasts. I think it would be too big.
Counterpoint. They did that in 2nd edition with the addition of things like having Beastmen and Demon World armies, so things like having actual Minotaurs and Trolls in your armies, as well as having like Demon Prince special characters and all the Chaos Space Marine special characters, etc., etc.
You can't just say they did it in 2nd edition and have that fly. That was literally 7 editions ago.
Yeah, the amount of units...
I don't care, I can still complain.
Yeah, but the amount of units in that 2nd edition codex is probably about as many Chaos Space Marine units that exist today. Like, don't even count the demons.
To be honest, I think the only actual Chaos Space Marine units that weren't in 2nd really were the Raptors, as far as I'm aware.
So
Raptors were introduced in 3rd.
Demon engines, though.
I suppose you just roll them under vehicles, technically. I suppose in a way.
Yeah, you got all the Predacons that got added in 6th edition.
Predacons.
Yeah, it's a Beast Wars joke. The fact that, you got the Helldrake and then the Mauler Fiend and the Forge Fiend. Big Beast Wars vibes off those lads.
Fair. So
I would have gone for Terracons personally, but hey.
So yes, Kill Team Maroc will include a bunch of the Battlezone Fronteris stuff. So if you scroll right down to the bottom of the article, it does look pretty nice. I think it's an awful mismatch. 10 Marines against 10 Guardsmen. Come on.
And an Ogren.
I was surprised because I originally thought it was going to be 3 Phobos Space Marines, and then they showed the full picture and it's like 10. I'm just like
I understand
that is a mismatch.
Like, I understand if you're updating the Infiltrators kit that you want that to be a full kit because you're going to slot an extra frame in there. I understand that. But in this particular instance, like, we've seen mismatches before, but
if it's 10 Phobos Space Marines against 11 Guardsmen and an Ogren.
And the Ogren is supposed to be a badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's slightly fairer. The Ogren counts as 3 people.
And I suppose a Commissar might count for 2.
There you go. It's more. It's fairer than it looks, I suppose.
I suppose I'll let it. If Space Marines didn't have 2 wounds, I'd give you that one. But
like, can we just talk about how one of the Phobos Marines is dabbing?
Boo. Boo.
I know he's pointing well, looking at his Auspex on his mounted on his wrist, but the pose looks like he's dabbing.
I know.
Just like that guy in that Guy Haley book, did my elaborate dabbing bow.
Indeed. Right. Necromunda or Warcry? Do we fancy Chaos Dwarves or actual dwarves?
Don't tease me with Chaos Dwarves. Like, I got enough of a tease watching that stream, listening to Eddie drop the name Legions of Hashut twice, and knowing that I still have to wait years before I'm going to get some Chaos Dwarves.
Yeah, so the Warcry warband in question is the Horns of Hashut, which is, for those who are unfamiliar, the bull-headed bull god of the Chaos Dwarves from fantasy. And Chaos Dwarves have never really been properly redone at all. They had a Forge World book in AOS 1, that was it. And when I saw that
name... They came out for 2... Sorry, quibble. They did actually have an update for AOS 2.0 as well, and they were a good army, and now they're not. They're legends. Boo.
Boo. And this was another thing that got spoiled and leaked in the whole Slaves to Darkness mega dump. But when you hear that name, and they've done this warband, and they're a really nice mix of models, to be fair. You've got some with clearly copying the Alarith Stone Guard bull helms. You've got a mix of sort of war leaders, basic almost peasants, as well as some sort of flamer weapon or shotgun ether thingy. A real nice mix of stuff. And I'm flicking through these and I keep asking myself, why are none of them Duardin? Like, they've done Chaos Dwarves in blooming one of the warbands. The Spire Tyrants had one. Why are there none here?
So it did seem, based on the fragments that Eddie gave us on stream, is that the Horns of Hashut are kind of like scouts for the Legions of Hashut. So, and they share some design traits with that lamellar armor with the Hobgrots from the Dominion box set.
Yeah, and the Hobgrots are known to trade with the Chaos Dwarves, yes?
They're not even known to trade with them. They're the bridge point between, they're servants of the Chaos Dwarves, it seems, that just happen to work alongside, that bring all the weapons that the Cruel Boys or the other Orc tribes buy from them. But it does seem that these guys are just like the forward vanguard elements to Chaos Dwarf Legions. That's my take on it, and I certainly hope that's right, because I want Chaos Dwarves so badly.
Agreed, but you did get something that was very Chaos Dwarvy. The Centaurian Marshal. The nearest thing anyone's had to a bull centaur in a damn long time.
Yep, absolutely gorgeous model, absolutely gorgeous sculpt. No Chaos Dwarfy elements beyond the fact that it's a centaur, so I live in hope.
Indeed, the net that it's wielding almost reminds me of the spider cult that came into Warcry and not that long ago. It really reminds me of them. And it has really got, I know, Centurion, Martial, Roman stuff. That Gladiator's helm is so Roman. It really, really works for me as a model. Also,
it's a
Baby
gorgeous.
Kragnos much?
I know. It is a gorgeous sculpt. Like the kind of unaligned Warcry monsters between this, the Spheranx, the Fulmoroid, they're wonderful, like little characterful additions. And I'm glad that they can be used kind of fairly broadly too.
Agreed. And finally, we come full circle in terms of we pretty much started on, well, not quite. We're pretty close to starting on the Leagues of Votan, and we're back with the squats again, and they are called squats here, with the Ironhead Squat Prospectors. So yes, squats in the Ash Wastes, and they have definitely got vibes of the Leagues of Votan, but certainly not all the way. Like their armor looks a bit more like obviously like a not a rad suit, but they've got a bit less armor and a bit more hat.
Yeah, again, Fallout vibes, absolutely loving it. Deep Rock Galactic vibes, loving that.
The giant hard hats.
This kit might get me into Necromunda just because I love it so much. It was interesting to hear from a lore perspective that like these are basic, like the squats on Necromunda are confirmed to just be essentially just distant relations of the Leagues of Votan. Like they share obviously common ancestors. They split off from the Leagues for Necromunda's rebuilding efforts after the heresy, and have just been here for 10,000 years. So they're very divergent, probably clinging on to a bunch of, Votan tech, but in a very degraded 41st millennium kind of way.
Yeah, and I like this. Whilst they're not part of the Leagues of Votan, we're sure they'd still get on with the kin who are all grumbling about the Eldari in the pub. Like, dwarven stereotype much.
So essentially, these ones are effectively Imperial squats as opposed to the independent Votan squats.
Yeah, I guess. Whether or not they would consider themselves Imperial in the way that, like, I think very few people in Necromunda technically do.
I mean, it would make sense from a lore perspective, saying like, if the Leagues of Votan do go for the idea that many of the squat homeworlds were consumed by the Nid, if they go for that plot point, and that how some of the squats were basically assimilated into the Imperium in the aftermath, this would basically help tie that into that idea.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
We also get confirmation of where you can find rules for all this stuff. Book of the Outlands will have a bunch of different rules, including the Ashwaste Nomads, the Orlocks, who have been updated, the squats themselves.
And vehicles.
And the vehicles, of course. The Ridge Hauler, the Quad Bite, the Rock Grinders, all that stuff. So plenty of different things in that book. If you're going to play Ash Wastes, you probably need to pick it up.
Yeah. I mean, it's got the vehicle rules in it, so you kind of have to.
Indeed. And that is 3/5 of Warhammer Fest. Obviously, 2 days haven't happened yet in our timeline. We've still got the Heresy tomorrow, and for one more day. Sorry, it's only Heresy Saturday. I thought there was a Sunday stream. There isn't. No, Saturday Heresy still to do. And we'll see what happens there. Now, in good old Adeptus Podcastus tradition, I think it's only fair we make some wildly inaccurate predictions as to what is going to be there. But unfortunately, I've seen the leaks, and so I think you have too. Therefore, it would be a bit difficult for us to
like, at this point, it's kind of like the entire thing feels like it's leaked. The only thing, so at least for the box, I think the only thing that we haven't seen is, I don't know, plastic Deimos pattern rhinos. Maybe the only thing that I'm hoping to see more of is other generic Legion units in plastic kits. That's
Breacher squads, Destroyer squads, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, at the absolute most, like a plastic flyers. Could you imagine a plastic Storm Eagle?
Plastic Thunderhawk, we're still waiting for that.
Keep dreaming.
The plastic Fire Raptor, just because I've never put together one of those kits, but I know from Heresy Buddies that they were apparently
plastic,
some of the worst.
Dreadclaw drop pod, that would be nice.
Oh, that would be nice. Plastic Leviathan.
We can at the very least talk about the plastic Contemptor.
Which is just great. The sheer potential for customization on that plain boy is wonderful.
Like kind of a multitude of weapon options like las cannon, twin auto cannon, multi-melter, heavy bolter, cyclone missile launcher.
I'm just happy this kit got updated because the Plastic Contemptor as it exists right now it's just terrible. I'm sorry.
It is not a very good kit. No.
It's not a nice
Calth Tempter,
model.
I think they called it.
Yeah. It just nothing about it is exciting. It's static as hell. It feels smaller. It's just not. It's nothing.
Well, it was designed as a word bearer's Contemptor, so what do you expect?
Yes. So I'm just happy this got an update. I'm so happy for that.
Agreed. Right, I'm just checking. I think news-wise, a little bit of Black Library got revealed that I wouldn't mind poking at.
Oh, what was that?
Godsbane.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because you sent me this.
I forgot, yeah.
Yeah, so Dale Lucas, you may know him from the Realm Lords novel that I gushed about a few months, maybe years ago on the podcast, has written another Lumineth novel called Godsbane. And it tells the tale of something in the seedy underbelly of Hish, where I'll just read you the back blurb. Terrible weapon, humblest power, came to me as Godsbane, Lumineth Law Seeker, it's a footnote of a rumour, then vying factions looking for it. Yeah, interesting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that, so I'll skip that there. To be honest, I just want to read it.
I did also receive the blurb to the next Siege of Terra novel.
Ooh.
Which novel? Is that the Sanguinius at the Gate one?
It is going to be Echoes of Eternity, Sanguinius at the Gate.
That's it. Ghost of Eternity. I've forgotten its name. Sorry.
Yeah, it's one that like I need to see more of this. I'm hoping that they're going to preview it for the Heresy stream because I genuinely cannot wait for this book. And I actually wanted to ask Rem what he thinks of the theory that I have that Kabanda is basically going to be retconned out of this and replaced by Angron. Kabanda might be there, but he is not going to be the title fight since it's Aaron Dembski-Bowden writing Sanguinius and Angron. He's been running Angron's plotline throughout the entire Heresy.
Yeah.
I want to see Angron fight Sanguinius. I don't care about Kabanda at all. I don't care if that's retconned. Kabanda is not interesting. He is just a bloodthirster.
I'll be honest. There's a few things in Heresy I wouldn't mind retconning. Kind of like you know the whole thing on the Vengeful Spirit. The person who like throws himself in front of the Emperor to save his life. Was it Alanius Pius? Was it a random Terminator? Was it a random Custodian? No, I wanted to be Garviel Loken this time round. Have a story come full circle.
I think we know that's probably going to happen.
It better bloody well happen.
but yeah, like I don't want Kabanda to be. What I would love is if Angron arrives mid-fight, beheads Kabanda, and just takes over, or like Angron just screws up his own side, kills a bloodthirster in order to fight Sanguinius.
Or maybe let's say tie what's in the story with it. Like for example, have it that Sanguinius and Kanda do fight. The fight, they get brought apart by the fighting, and then instead of it being Sanguinius that breaks Kabanda's back, Angron just wades his way through, and Kabanda's like, no, I am the Angel's Bane, he is mine, and Angron's like, I do not care, I want his head, and breaks Kabanda's back himself before going on to fight Sang.
Just goes full on Bane.
Mm-hmm. The challenge becomes, though, if you do that, is Angron has to lose, and also not die, because Sanguinius has to make it to the Vengeful Spirit, and Angron has to leave. So, how do you write the fight without
Angron can
one
just
of
be
them
banished?
losing?
Angron can be just banished, like how Mortarion was.
I do remember the bit, the White Dwarf tale about the siege that Tactica is referring to here, where it says that Angron is just like basically flips a finger at the palace as they leave. But this is, again, one of those things that it's just like, no, Angron can be banished. And that's actually probably the best thing, because the idea that he's just still rampaging down on Terra as everything else is going on is always been a bit silly to me.
Yeah, because like, why would Horus losing make Angron go home type thing?
Exactly. Like, and how could anything, if Angron has not been beaten at that point, like, it's a bit of a difficult prospect to get him banished.
Yeah, given what it took on Armageddon, I think it has to be Sang or Dawn who beats him. And Dawn's not strong enough.
Well, Dawn did beat Fulgrim.
But that's
Yeah,
the
but it's
thing. Like,
Fulgrim.
is Dorn going to be handed two Primarch versus Primarch victories?
I don't
think so.
Well, technically, it'd be 3, technically, because he already killed Alfarius, didn't he?
And remember, 2 of them would be against demon Primarchs.
Yeah, like, there's such a thing as stretching credulity, and like it's just so much cleaner and neater if Sanguinius beats Angron.
I mean, I'm sure Valrak wouldn't mind, but...
No, perhaps not, but I think unless there is some serious Dawn equals Roman Reigns, I don't think they're doing that, personally.
That means they've got to turn Dawn heel.
I mean, the Iron Cage was a bit of a heel turn, massacring half your own legion just to prove a point.
I'd say the poop marbles were more of a heel turn, because, forcing your aspirants to be poop.
That too. Right.
Which means when you tell an Imperial Fist to eat shit, they'll turn around and say, already done so.
Thanks, I really needed that. I'm sure our listeners who are having their breakfast just lost their appetite.
I could have gone much worse.
I know you could, but you still shouldn't have gone there in the bloody first place. Right. Where to? Now we've done the news, where to?
Doncaster.
Is there anything to be said
We'll go
for
to
Legion?
Doncaster, lads.
Never been to Donny, to be fair.
Not much, I don't think, but... But yeah, to be honest, like, in regards to Horus Heresy Retcons, there's already been, like, God knows how many. I mean, I think one of the most recent ones they did was in regards to, like, Khan the Betrayer. Considering, like, originally he was, like, he was found dead atop a pile of corpses, and then he was found dead, impaled on, like, a tank's bulldozer blade, and now Sigmar has basically disemboweled him and cut off all his limbs.
Ouch.
So it's like, okay, which one is it? Who knows?
Change whatever the hell they need to about the plot, just as long as it's a good story.
Yeah, so
just do it.
And to be honest, I think, Sanguinius versus Angron, it would be a much stronger, plot point than just Sanguinius versus Kabanda. I mean, I know Kabanda's got the history, things like Cygnus Prime and all that jazz, but,
Yeah, and Kabanda can have Cygnus.
Yeah, but like, having two brothers, one being an angel and one being basically Satan, fighting each other would be much thematically stronger.
Correct.
Indeed. In fact, speaking of doesn't matter about retcons as long as the story's good, there's actually a question came in about, do you believe the new Heresy show has promise, or are you concerned about it? And I guess just make it good, we don't care if you retcon it, is a good, not a bad starting position to be in terms of how you feel about that show. What show?
There's a Horus Heresy show?
According to this comment, there was.
News to me well.
too. Yeah.
I'm not sure if
I stopped and read that question, and now I'm bloody confused.
Not sure if that's a thing.
No, what? Commenter.
I think all three of us would have heard about this.
Yeah, I feel like one of us would know about it. Commenter, if you wouldn't mind clarifying what you meant by that.
By the way, maybe they're announcing it on Saturday and we don't know. Maybe we're all just
the comments from 8 days ago, so that would be some serious bloody prescience.
Well, it's going to be a prequel series. It's going to be called Primarch Babies. It's going to have the same. It's going to be done by Jim Henson Studios. They Primarch Babies.
And speaking of, while we're on Primarchs, there's another question I quite like about the idea of, were some of the Primarchs redundancies for one another? So it's like we know in the idea of the Emperor being that, and the Primarchs is that Horus was this, Guilliman was that, and yada yada yada. Is there an idea that sort of the Emperor made his Primarchs for that purpose, and then made a spare one who often end up being the traitor? So Perturabo Dawn, Kurz Corvus, Corax, Lion, Khan, Ferrus Fulgrim, Sanguinius Horus. These are just sort of suggestions from the comments. I just thought I'd chuck it out there.
At first, I'd say Corvus was the redundant one in comparison to Kurz, considering like the Raven Guard and Night Lords were both made to be Terror Troops, and Night Lords were the 8th Legion and Raven Guard the 19th. Or was it the 18th? No, it's 19th.
That would by that logic of the numbers, though, that means that Horus was Sanguinius' spare.
Well, everyone did say that Sanguinius would be a better choice for War Master. I mean, Horus wanted Sanguinius to be War Master, and Sanguinius was like, no, because I'm actually humble. I don't want it.
Point.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, it's an interesting theory. I think it would probably give the Emperor a bit too much credit, and also not touch upon the Emperor's own ego. I don't believe that the Emperor's ego would have allowed him to consider the idea of redundancy.
I mean,
but that's me.
Yeah, 2 legions that were designed as terror troops, 2 legions designed for siege warfare. multiple.
Yes, but on different sides of the siege, technically.
True. What about the Terror Troop thing, though?
Yeah, I know that. I mean, that's a solid one.
God knows how many, shock assault legions.
This is true.
So I'd probably say there was maybe some degree of redundancy about how much of that was planned or not. Could have just been a happy accident.
This is true. I think it's definitely an interesting thought experiment, but it depends on how much, like you said, how much credit do you give the Emperor? Which sort of leads to what we were talking about last episode, where we were talking about, was the Emperor's hubris and this plan that was 1,000,000 to 1 shot, was it the Emperor being a hubristic git, or was it 1,000,000 to 1 shot and the Emperor was just had to do it because he was desperate? Just again, how much credit do you give the Emperor for actually planning it versus a shot in the dark that was doomed to fail?
I suppose the question is, who wrote the book at the time?
Also that. Whose perspective are we telling this story from?
Or just the general, why do we need to know?
As well, yeah.
There's a wonderful bit in Nate Crowley's Gazgul novel where Inquisitors are asking Makari how he resurrects, and Makari's like, I don't know, I'm a grot. Don't ask me to explain the workings of the universe to you. Which is just like we're all asking these questions about just like, what does the Emperor think? What does the Emperor do? It's like none of us are the Emperor. Like,
none of us
how are we
on
supposed
his
to
level.
figure out what he thinks?
Yeah, fair point. Then again, we wouldn't have a job if trying to come up with ideas about stories. We wouldn't have much of a job. Since I've started questions, I'll see if there's any more that are interesting. Here's one. So we were talking about Draknien being so powerful because it's the demon born of the first human murder in diddly dee. Where's the Eldari's one? And wouldn't that be a lot stronger?
It wouldn't necessarily
because
be a lot
the Eldari
stronger.
are much more psychic.
The thing about that is that the Eldari are more psychic and that they can resonate, but it seems that humans resonate more with chaos for whatever reason than other species do.
Yes.
I know that the Eldari literally, obviously gave birth to Slanesh, but there does seem to be a weird relationship between chaos and humanity specifically in the 40k universe.
Maybe this is Slanesh's origin story.
Maybe.
Well, Slanesh was born of hedonism, depravity, and murder, so...
Yeah, maybe that is the birth point of Slanesh. I don't know, but yeah, you make a very fair point there.
Thing is, you could also argue it's like, well, they didn't create a demon; they created gods. Considering, the implication that 3 of the Chaos gods were created as a result of the war in heaven, the first one, not the second one or the third one. Too many bloody
the Eldari Civil War one, the Necrontyr one,
the old one, Necrontyr one. Considering that in the aftermath, basically, warp predators start appearing en masse and start, growing in power. So the argument is that the Chaos Gods themselves were born as a result of the war in heaven, which will make sense considering, Khorne being, a war god, being born of the greatest war in galactic history.
Yeah, and the idea of the aspect of the Reaper coming out from the Nightbringer infecting Cain, sort of, again, you might leave some space for the Chaos Gods to develop in that hole as well. Maybe.
So you could argue that the Eldari, the demon born of the Eldari's first murder, was actually Khorne. You could argue.
Maybe. And staying with the warp, this one asks, is the warp still considered conceptually to be an ocean? Like, obviously, representation of the warp will be in the eye of the beholder and who's telling the story. But obviously, the warp has always been considered, at least this is one of its definitions, as the Sea of Souls. And so... I know it's eye of the beholder stuff and you fly through it and yada yada, but conceptually, how is the warp sort of now in terms of its definition, its portrayal, if such a thing can be defined?
Subjectivity is completely the point there. The Thousand Sons always refer to it as the Great Ocean. The Sea of Souls is, a bit of a flowery human way of describing it. It's the sea metaphor is probably a bit more. It's probably strongest with humans because humans fly ships through it. So it's kind of a thing there, but it's a broad question because it all depends on who's talking.
Yeah, because obviously because there's areas of the warp that you can walk per se. And so is that like the bottom of the warp is the land where the gods make their homes? Well, no, because it's not that Euclidean. But
if I recall correctly, I think it has been stated at least somewhere that within the warp there are realms belonging to like powerful demon princes, and they are described as being akin to islands in a vast ocean.
That's true.
So the areas of the warp where you can walk are probably just an island or, a rock sticking out of the ocean kind of thing. To oversimplify. And I think that's the important thing, is to grossly oversimplify.
Well, any attempt to place language or structure upon the warp is oversimplification of something that just is not, right?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't even fit in with Euclidean and Euclidean geometry and Newtonian mechanics. So trying to understand it from any human perspective is pointless.
Yep.
Okay, that's an interesting question. It's weird, but I'm going to run with it. Given Cawl's outlook, is it possible that Belisarius Cawl spent time with the Leagues of Votan, or maybe one of his personalities comes from them in terms of this different outlook on technology? I doubt it, but I thought I'd throw it out there.
Oh, I think it's absolutely likely that he's either talked to them or spent time with them. Whether or not one of his, I don't think one of his personality cores is from there. His personality cores are all him at various stages that he's partitioned his,
Plus, isn't one of his old masters, his old trainers, one of his personality cores? Didn't he absorb one of them in the heresy?
Yes,
it was post-heresy,
it was post-heresy, yes, but you are dead right there. I think we don't really know a lot. We don't know a lot about what Cawl did for 10,000 years, other than, make a whole bunch more of himself.
And a whole bunch of Primarchs.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible that, I guess, one of them could be from there. But I definitely think he at some point, went and stayed with them or had some sort of research exchange with them.
And then he tried to steal a Votan cogitator, and then he got chased out.
It could be the explainer of how anti-grav tech has become more common in the Imperium. Again,
that's a shout. And actually, if we're going to say Belisarius Cawl doing heretical things with heretical and not really Imperial individuals, what if Cawl was one of the tech priests who collaborated with the Drukhari on the Golden Throne? If that's still canon,
that is still canon, but that is. Cawl wouldn't have been involved in that one, given my understanding of that.
It was the Fabricator General who was involved with that, wasn't he?
Yes, it was Cubic. Was it Cubic? No. Uduraskian is the current Fabricator General of Mars, and he was the one that was involved with that.
Yeah, and Cawl's as well as not a popular on Mars, is he?
No, he is not. But that was more that would while the Mechanicum were obviously part of that, a lot of the Cabal was being led by other members of the Terran High Lords.
Yes,
fair.
Who thought it would be a great idea to bring a bloody Drukhari homunculus to Terra, and oh dear, he just turned a whole bunch of underhivers into an army of grotesques, and now he's besieging the interior of the Imperial Palace, and he's made his way to the fucking Eternity Gate. Whoops.
Yeah, I can't believe leopards ate my face.
Dear oh dear. Right. There weren't a lot of questions, to be completely honest. There's one about, have any non-human factions ever tried to, replicate the idea of a space marine in terms of, doing what the humans do to the space marine. I don't think many factions know how to make a space marine, or even know how to start making a space marine. So why would they bother?
I think it's less about them not knowing and them not caring. The Drukhari make, grotesques all the time, but the Eldari wouldn't want to, mess with their genomes. The Kroot make just change themselves at will, basically. They don't need to either.
The Tau wouldn't do it.
No, they don't need to. They just build a bigger battlesuit.
The Nids already did with the Tyrant Guard, considering they're made from Space Marine DNA.
Correct. And whilst the Orcs would probably be mental enough to try, I don't think they'd even begin to know how to do it with all the know-whats, because most of the Orc science works on it should happen, therefore it does, and they wouldn't even know where to begin.
Orcs don't need to, though.
Exactly, and orcs
just get bigger. They just need to fight more.
Yeah,
they
don't need to.
Yeah, their bodies give them everything that Space Marines would have. I talk about it in my latest video. They're the perfect genetic weapon already.
Even more so than Tyranids.
Yeah. Tyranids are Tyranids hyper evolve, but Orcs don't get tired, they just keep fighting. Orcs reproduce by spores. They don't need biomass to do it. They just grow and fight, and that's how they gain sustenance. It's also their sheer robustness. Tyranids need the hive mind to direct everything. You put a bunch of orc spores on a planet, and then, within a decade, you've got, like, a potential Wa emerging. They're incredibly versatile and incredibly robust and durable, and that's why they're perfect.
Yeah. You also need to remember as well, as far as the two species are concerned, orcs were themselves artificially engineered, or at the very least uplifted to some degree.
Correct.
Whereas, as far as we're aware, the Nids were not. As far as we're aware, they're evolution gone mad.
Yeah, do you remember that White Dwarf article where it was implied that the Silent King made the Tyranids?
Yeah, that was just weird.
That was really weird. I remember we had, I think, Scarlet Kingdom recording that episode, who was a Tyranid player, and they just had to sit there in dead silence listening to the story of their favourite army potentially getting massacred.
Yeah, I think they just typed in the comments, just like screaming internally.
Yeah, that was a show. But no, I still remember that article. And it's funny what sticks with you, isn't it? Because when you read as much lore as we do, the things that stick with you are the zany things or the truly memorable moments, like Grimaldus' speech at the end of Hell's Reach and the Silent King may have made the Tyranids. All these really cool stories you forget, or at least I do, because I have a sieve for a brain and only enough memory capacity for certain things. But what sticks with you is very interesting in terms of what qualifies your brain to take it in and stick with it and log it in your long-term memory.
Yeah. So I remember that one little quote box thing of an Eldari philosopher who was talking about how orcs are the perfect organism, and they're known as, like, I've forgotten their name, but their title was The Perverse or something because of their theories.
Yeah, we see a society that is perfect and despise it as crude. I remember how it ends.
Yeah.
And talking about how the humans have fallen to their own hubris and how the Eldari had and how the orcs just don't care because we seek answers to questions the orcs had never thought to ask. They
just don't need to. They don't want to.
It's such a good quote.
I think the only questions on an orc's mind are, where's the next fight and what's for dinner?
And where's the nearest grot so I can kick it?
I don't even think they give a grot that much fault, to be honest. They just kick wherever they see it.
Yeah, fair point.
Food and fighting, that's all that's on an orc's mind. Food and fighting. Or fighting and food. Or fighting for food. Or feeding a fight. Whichever term it is. It's all green.
Yeah, I think that broadly covers a lot of the questions that at least caught my interest. There's probably a couple of others that are interesting in their own way, but they were the ones that hit me in terms of, I want to ask those, especially as we're talking about heresy.
Fair enough.
Blimey heck.
What?
Just an hour and a half, and we've barely done anything apart from news and just random tangents.
Bloody hell.
Sorry, I cut you off.
You did mention about the Gotrek books.
Yeah, I went completely mental over the bank holiday weekend because I went to see my parents and they don't have signal in their house. So I downloaded some ebooks ahead of time and I read a long time ago, I bought a long time ago, Ghoulslayer. Gotrek is going to go and see Nagash and all that book. And then with this Soul Slayer book about the Ideneth coming out, I thought, you know what, actually, I'm just going to give this a read and I'll get Git Slayer, the one in the middle too. I didn't get Realm Slayer, the first one, but I read Gotrek 2, 3 and 4 from Sigmar and I couldn't really put them down. And this is coming from someone who doesn't like Duardin, generally, who plays elves as a habit, a slightly scary habit. But no, I really enjoyed the books. And whilst I wasn't hearing Brian Blessed's voice while I was reading it, Gotrek is a really, really fun, interesting and deep character who very much does evolve as well. He's not just a curmudgeon, the old relic played for a comedy bit. He's evolving and changing and seeing his goals versus his responsibilities and how people react to him and the consequences his coming has and his Master Rune of Grimnir and all of this stuff. It was really, really good. Like all three stories, you see Gotrek change, and you see Malineth, the witch elf who was following him, and I won't spoil the ending of Soulslayer, and how they change as well. It was really good. So credit to all three of them were Darius Hinks in this case. David Guyman did the first one, but Hinks has done the other three. And full credit to Darius Hinks for making a really engaging story that, for someone who doesn't know Gotrek and Felix, you still invest in the character, even if you don't know much about him. You get enough of a sense of who he is and what he's about just from these stories. You don't have to be a fantasy aficionado to know, which is really good.
I've heard similar praise about the books quite often, and they're on my list to read eventually. I'm just happy. I'm happy that people who love the Gotrek and Felix books are enjoying them, but I'm also happy that they're able to give the Mortal Realms a good character to work with. Indeed,
and one thing that they all do is they also spend a lot of time with the villains of the piece, like just
that.
So Ghoulslayer, you spend a lot of time with the Flesh Eater Courts, who are the villain of the piece, and how they perceive themselves. And you get to spend time in this regal court and how everyone reacts to them. And they're like, why are you screaming? We're here to liberate you, you admittedly traitors to the crown, but so on and so forth. And then right as they die, then it starts to fade. The delusion fades and they start to see what they're actually seeing. Instead of it being noblemen guarding the fallen queen, it's feral ghouls ripping the courtier's body apart. And you feel sorry for them. Slightly. Not much, but slightly.
But are they portrayed as being very much like the Bretonnians of old? In their delusions?
Not as far as... These guys are more like a chiefdom of warrior things. They have dances and all of that. But it didn't strike me as... Oh yeah, this is what Bretonnia is like. Though admittedly, how they explained away the Vargheists, which are the winged horrors, is that as if by magic, their horses grow wings and they fly like Pegasi. But they're not Pegasus knights in the Bretonnian style. They're not always Pegasi. It's some magic that when they go to war, the horses sprout wings as if by the will of the king or by the will of the gods or whatever. Yeah. It was really good. And Gitsley, you spend a lot of time with a Gobapalooza, essentially, who are trying to ensnare Gotrek and pretty much succeed because they have visions and the bad moon's rising and all the plans that Gotrek had about getting the Master Rune of Grimnir out, because that was his plan. In Ghoulslayer, it was die, because Nagash owes him a death, or Sigmar does. And then it's get the rune out, which is why he goes to the Caradron. And then it changes again. It's really, really good. So, yeah, well done.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm happy to know that I've got those books ahead of me in my future.
Good. Yeah, so I could go on and on and on, but I think I'll leave it because there's 3 books of stuff, and so I don't think it's fair to try and recap them, especially with one came out like a week ago. So I don't think it would be fair to recap them all here, but
yeah,
read Gotrek. Even if you don't like Sigmar that much, read Gotrek. It's really good. Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I believe, Oculus, you have to head off now for the rest of the episode, I'm afraid, aren't you?
Yes, I am afraid I must. Needs must. I'm an unfortunately very busy man at this particular time. But I wanted to thank you so much for having me on. It was great to be here with you guys again. Great to chat about all these wonderful reveals. So thank you. Look forward to the next
thank you very much for taking time out of your crazy busy schedule that you clearly have to join us.
As I said that, I just realized how much...
I know that came across sarcastic. I do believe you.
No. As I said it, I was just like, oh, that's a terrible thing to say as you're leaving a podcast halfway through. But unfortunately, yes, it is true.
But no, thank you very much for your time. And it's always good talking with you.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys next time.
Absolutely. Take care.
Right. So is there anything else to briefly discuss?
Not on a news front. I've sort of skimmed through Gotrek. I don't know if you picked up a book in the last couple of weeks. I had time. I know you've been very busy, but...
I managed to read through the Triumph of Saint Katherine novel.
Spoiler Room Brawl?
I think technically this would be a spoiler because the standard issue of it comes out this month. I think it actually comes out tomorrow at time of recording. So yes, this will be a spoiler overall.
All right.
Okay, so spoiler overall in 3, 2, 1. I can't do the CM Punk to AEW confirmed joke anymore because he's actually there now. Okay,
CM Punk AEW champion. There's your joke.
CM Punk to WWE confirmed. There you go. That's no joke. Right. So this story, in a sense, it's very similar to the Luther and Sigismund novels in that, while there is a coherent plot, it's more used as a framing device to tell a number of additional smaller stories that are basically all linked together by one particular narrative.
Right.
Basically, start off with Imperial Guard and Sisters of Battle are an Imperial world, basically fighting forces of chaos. The Triumph of Saint Katherine's being paraded around, and the Sororitas, who's playing the role of Saint Katherine herself, because the Sororitas on the Triumph, basically each one represents one of the founding saints of the Sororitas. So the one representing Katherine has a sword and shield. She ends up dying, and after you've been pushed back briefly and everyone's basically resting up for preparing for the next assault, blah, 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 another Sister of Battle basically starts having visions of Saint Katherine, like the real Saint Katherine. Yeah. And basically the Sororitas realise, you've been chosen to basically take, the previous, for lack of a better term, Avatar's place. So you're going to be the new part on the Triumph of the Saint Katherine thing now. So she's taken away to meet with the other embodiments of the saints, as it were. I'm just going to call them avatars for ease of convenience, even though they're not strictly avatars, they just represent avatars.
Yes, please do. Yeah, don't get avatars cane in your head.
Actually, embodiments then. And they all get introduced, and each one basically, as part of a ritual to welcome a new member into their ranks, has to tell a story about Saint Katherine, like the real Saint Katherine, in her, of her actions and her past deeds and stuff like that.
Sort of showing that they know their stories or have had really good visions.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Now, it's kind of confusing considering these stories they tell are meant to be about the Saint Katherine, as in the founder of the Order of the Fiery Heart / our Martyr Lady, because she is the Martyr Lady because she was killed.
Yeah.
Yet the first story that's being told has the Saint Katherine leading some Sisters of Battle on a graveyard world where they briefly mention it's like, of all these tombs, we expect some Necrons to pop out. And I'm just thinking, hang on.
Sanctuary 101.
Which happened long after Katherine was dead, by the way. And not only that, they're fighting Nids. And I'm just thinking, hang on.
Timelines.
Yeah. Now, in fairness, they do actually offer an in-universe explanation as to why they're telling a story about the Saint Katherine discussing Necrons and fighting Nids. They do mention how, these stories, who can really say what the truth of these events actually are? We should take them
Someone with a calendar.
We should take them as allegorical to basically show how brave and how, pious Saint Katherine truly was. So basically, these stories are effectively nothing more than allegorical. They're not meant to be taken literally.
So they're basically just like Greek myth.
In a sense, yeah. In a sense, which basically made me think, oh, thank fuck! It's
I don't have to shoehorn this into canon.
It's like, considering that, the Nids showed up about a good, I don't know, 6,000 years after her death, off a rough estimate.
Yeah, Necrons you might get away with, but Nids, no chance.
I mean, Necrons, they were first officially encountered something like 741, I think.
Yeah, but we know some Necrons were awake at the time of the Horus Heresy.
Yes, but no one knew what the fucking Necron was back then.
Oh, absolutely, I agree. But you could at least say there were Necrons at that time.
You could potentially say yes, but at the same time you could also say, oh, there was Nids present on the Moon of Imgar at the time because Gene Steer's the Leech version at the time. But I'm splitting hairs here.
Indeed.
So basically, the first story being told is about Saint Katherine fighting Nids on a grave world. Take it as allegory, not literal. The second story is Saint Katherine basically encountering some surviving Repentia, and they're basically fighting their way through like a derelict ship which has been taken over by demons, and basically Catherine having to let one of these Repentia sacrifice herself, even though she wants to save her because this Repentia was her friend in life, but she needs to let the Repentia die in battle so she can be redeemed in the eyes of the Emperor, which is it's kind of tragic in a way. Try to remember what the other stories were. There was another story with Saint Katherine fighting against some orcs, actually having a duel against an orc war boss, which basically ended with, like, as she's fighting the orc war boss and Hannah Couch, she basically, like, radios, the nearby Imperial Guard and was like, hey, can you give us an artillery barrage? Cheers, lads. Start bombing the camp while she's fighting the orc warlord. It's like, yeah, I can see that happening. It's very 40k. Just like...
Yeah, I mean, she is the martyred lady. I didn't realise she tried to martyr herself to an artillery barrage.
Yeah. I can't remember the exact details of all the other stories, because it's been a while. The one thing that was quite interesting when discussing the versus Nid story, the person telling the story mentions how Saint Catherine basically ordered for her sisters to fall back to basically regroup and reposition themselves, and the person taking the role of Alicia Dominica, her avatar, basically says, like, fall back. You dare suggest that the Saint Catherine would be so cowardly as to fall back, as to retreat? And it's like, no, she wasn't retreating. She was regrouping. She was getting a better position. And it's like, your words are dangerously close to heresy, kind of thing.
Or for saying we used conventional battle tactics when we were losing. Oh no, Emperor forbid we have conventional competent battlefield strategy. Oh, that would be truly... Actually, it's the Imperium. That would definitely be heretical.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, rest of my case.
I mean, load-bearing walls.
I know.
That's all I have to say, load-bearing walls.
I know.
Funny enough, there was when one of the other sisters was telling her story, she mentioned about how Saint Catherine was, had the fire of a zealot, zealousness within her, and her superior basically says, like, are you calling her a zealot? It's like, well, we are, aren't we?
That's a bit self-referential, but yeah, I'll take it.
It's like, we are zealous, aren't we? Are we not devoted to the Emperor's cause? Are we not zealous in our faith? Watch your tone, bitch.
But I'm not wrong.
So, I'm not going to punish you for that yet. And when it gets to the new Catherine having to tell her story, she doesn't tell a story about Catherine because she doesn't know as many stories yet at that point. What she has to do instead is tell a story about herself. And she's mentioning a story about earlier on in the war. They're basically scouting out a position where, like, a sniper or a heavy weapon team could be, set up, for the coming battle. And it turns out that this location, it was actually the site of an ambush. And basically, her squad and the tech priest that was accompanying them and the guardsmen accompanying them, they were all ambushed by cultists, like worshippers of Nurgle, though, because they're, like, throwing, like acid grenades or, like... Well, the disease grenades are basically acting like acid and start melting all the guardsmen. Because Nurgle. She mentions how one guardsman, during the midst of the battle, picked up the discarded heavy weapon team's las cannon by himself and started, going full on fucking Rambo with it. And,
Gunnery Sergeant Harker says hi, but also I call BS.
Well, funny enough, one of the other sisters calls BS now as well. It's like, are you saying a regular man was able to carry a las cannon? To which...
No.
To which the sister says, like, the Emperor himself blessed this guardsman with the strength born of faith and fury, and in his anger, the Emperor's rage flowed through him, and he was able to wield the weapon. The Emperor gifted him with the strength of an Astartes. And it's like...
No.
Well... In fairness, if the guy was big enough, Harker can carry a heavy bolter by himself. I'm sure...
A las cannon is a lot heavier than a bolter.
Yes. But remember, in Necromunda, there was also a model of a Dalek ganger carrying a las cannon by himself as well, so...
Oh, fair. Fine.
So, it is possible. He just basically had to be a big boy. And I think we can agree, if he was a big boy, he could do it.
Yeah, fine. Let it slide.
But yeah, so the Avatar character is basically she's saying like how in this moment she felt her faith begin to falter. Because her sister Superior basically had been crushed by a boulder that was basically pushed off the point as part of the ambush. And even though her sister Superior was basically, singing prayers to inspire her sisters, she was basically slowly being crushed to death. Like, she didn't die in battle, and therefore she'll never be given the Emperor's grace. She'll never stand by the Golden Throne, blah, blah, blah. To which the Avatar of Alicia Dominica says, like, no, she died fighting the enemy. She'll be standing by the Emperor's side. Even though she wasn't shot, she died in battle. That's what matters.
Yeah.
And basically, the new version of Karen's basically saying, like, I feel ashamed by basically having my faith falter at this point. And everyone's like, yeah, well, you had visions of Saint Katherine herself. She chose you, so...
Suck it up, sister.
Pretty much. She gets given her new armor as part of the Triumph, and like an hour passes, whatever. They muster up for battle again, and they go into battle, and Catherine basically faces off against the Demon Prince of Nurgle, which implies to be Demon Prince of Nurgle. It's basically this monstrously bloated creature that stinks and carries a flail of skulls. And it's like,
yeah, that's a very powerful Nurgle demon.
Yeah, and she ends up managing to best it in battle, but only just. That's one thing that's quite funny, like described during their fight. The Nurgle demon literally just bonks her on the head. And it's like, the impact is like a bell going off. literally describes going bonk with its fist. It's like fucking Tom and Jerry here, so bonk. But yeah, Imperial Guns Sisters of Battles win the day, and as the story ends, the Avatar of Saint Katherine receives a vision from San Lior and sees a vision of the Saint Katherine, basically giving her some praise. The end.
Fair enough. I mean, forgive me if I don't want to go run out and buy it after that.
It's not a bad book. I mean, as far as Sisters of Battle books go, it's not the best. That's not to say it's a bad book. It's not a bad book by any means.
No.
I'm just saying that Danny Ware's Bloodied Rose stuff is a lot better, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's kind of like the Sigismund book is interesting and you're glad it's in the canon, but is it one that everybody needs to go out and buy? Same with the Luther book. A lot of these books like that seem to be good to have and nice to know, but not absolutely essential reading. It's
the kind of book you'd probably read only once and not pick up again, unless you were really, really bored. Again, like, it's not a knock on Danny Ware. Danny Ware can write some great stuff. Like, her Bloody Rose stuff is fantastic.
Yep.
But I think she's far better at writing The Order of the Bloody Rose than The Order of Our Martyred Lady.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because let's be honest, The Order of Our Martyred Lady, they're the fucking Ultramarines of the Sisters of Battle, let's be honest.
Yeah, I would say that is fair. Because they are the stereotypical black armor, red trim.
They are the poster girls of the
Yes, I thought they were. My brain was just struggling there. It's Friday night. I'm tired. All right,
it's fine. But yeah, they're the poster girls of the Sororitas. Which is why I find the Bloody Rose stuff to be so much more interesting. Because the Bloody Rose are, personally, a much more interesting order. Because, they got the potentially dark history of so in the first novella, there's the insinuation that their founder may have potentially fallen to Khorne, but may have not, kind of thing. There's that insinuation of a very dark past.
Indeed. So there's setup, and it may not pay it off, but it's there, and
there's
you can
intrigue.
easily use it. Yeah, intrigue. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, there's intrigue. Whereas with the Armata Lady, it's like, okay. The one thing I still don't understand though, because the person taking the role of Catherine is said to be armed with Catherine's sword, and Saint Catherine herself is supposed to be wearing her own armour. So what the fuck is Celestine got then?
That's not the armour of Saint Catherine then, clearly.
Because Celestine's meant to be having Catherine's sword and the armour of Saint Catherine. But
yeah, and I'm inclined to believe Celestine.
It's just like, to be honest, it wouldn't be the first time we have contradictions in the same fucking book.
But let's also be fair, there's more than one Triumph. Given the fact that you've got avatars of all these different saints, there is not going to be only one conclave like that in the galaxy. There will be replicas.
Yeah, but considering that everyone's saying, like, these are the remains of the Saint Katherine.
I suppose.
And,
but then,
and considering meant to have, like, visions from the saint.
Yeah, but that implies, given that you had representatives of Alicia Dominica and all of that, that the Order of Our Martyred Lady has all the representatives of all the saints and all the remains of all the saints, and they just carry them around together.
I'll need to do some more digging into St. Catherine lore, to be honest, because I think it needs some clarification. I mean, if someone knows in the comments section, feel free to comment below. But
yeah, because I might have just missed something, but I know the Triumph of Saint Katherine is a unique model in your army. You can't have more than one, but at the same time, as much as it is what it says it is, let's not pretend that in the real world and in much fiction, religion being used to, and religious relics and faith and things like that being used to prop up a lie is not uncommon. I mean, look at the entire bloody ecclesiarchy. So I wouldn't put it past the sororitas to fake it. The visions I'll buy, but is it her armor, her sword when you have Celestine flying around?
I wouldn't necessarily say it was the sororitas faking it, because the sororitas so fucking says, I doubt you get away with faking it. Other members of the ecclesiarchy, you could argue that, but the sororitas themselves, I doubt anyone would be stupid enough to admit to faking it or even attempting to try, because like you made a replica of a saint's remains. That's sacrilege, and then everyone gets set on fire. Because if that was the case, you could end up having a situation where you have two sororitas sects, each one claiming to have the remains of Saint Katherine, which ends up ending up with a huge fucking punch-up between them.
This is true.
And I doubt the ecclesiarchy people are like, do you really want that, lads?
Yeah, is it really worth, not this lie in order to just hope that the sisters fall for it, or, it's not going to work.
Because we don't want another reign of blood, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh no, there's many things the Imperium doesn't want to repeat of. The reign of blood is just one of many.
Yeah. Considering that, like, how many Space Marine chapters had to be dragged in to solve that? About 12, wasn't it?
More than the Imperium had to spare, that's for sure.
Yeah. Because off the top of my head, the only one I can actually remember being involved in that was Soul Drinkers. Off the top of my head.
I want to say Salamanders, and was it the War of the Beast, or after the beheading, or was it in the end of the Reign of Blood, where there was an Ultramarine chapter master who basically dressed down the High Lords?
Yeah, it was the Reign of Blood, yeah. Ultramarines were involved, yeah. Yeah, because he turned around and said, sort this shit out!
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was after the beheading or after the Reign of Blood.
No,
I couldn't remember.
Because the beheading, that basically, it was the Imperial Fist giving the dressing down to the High Lords at that point.
Yes, it was, yes.
Because the Imperial Fist basically kind of fucked up as like, we left, we left Drake and Vanquish in charge of the High Lords and caused the shit in the first place. Fucking whoops!
Yeah, the Imperial Fist do have to take the blame for that one. A little bit.
Because, in fairness, this was the fourth founding version of the Imperial Fists. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, remember that the current incarnation of the Imperial Fists are a fourth founding chapter, because the first founding one was wiped out.
Indeed.
Now go eat your poop marbles. And on that crass bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for this episode of Adeptus Podcastus. We hope you enjoyed listening to it, and we apologise for all the poop jokes. We'll try to keep it down next time. Unless Chapter Valrak is involved, then I'm going to tease him the fuck out of it.
Yes, and thank you again to Oculus Imperia for joining us. I know obviously he's left a while ago now, but thank you very much for joining us on the show. It's been really good to talk about Warhammer Fest, and look forward to seeing what the reveal stream for the Heresy has tomorrow. Obviously, by the time you're watching this, you will already know, and will have probably rinsed us for one thing or another in the comments and my terrible takes on Chaos Cultists. So, yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. We really enjoyed this one, and we hope you have too.
So, until next time, this has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
This has been Tactica Imperialis, and that was Oculus Imperia. I'm not doing the accent.
He'd probably smack you if you tried.
Correct.
But anyway, we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.